Welcome back, folks. My name's Shane. In today's video, we're checking out a lens I've wanted to review for a very long time. This is the Panasonic Leica 35-100mm f2.8 zoom lens. Now, I recently purchased the 12-35mm f2.8 Leica lens, and it's been awesome. It's one of my favorite lenses for micro four thirds, and I was dying to check this out because I own the G9II and a GH7, and I haven't seen too many reviews of this lens on the new camera bodies with the new sensors and also the new phase hybrid autofocus. So that's what we'll be testing out in this video. I'm going to cover both video and photographic performance of this lens and then share with you my overall thoughts about it. Now, before we get into this video, just a quick thank you to Panasonic in Australia for the loan of this lens. I don't get to keep it, no money's changed hands, and all thoughts about this are my own. If you can do me a favor, drop a thumbs up and let us know if you've already got this lens or if you've been thinking about buying it. If you do find this video helpful, I'll leave links to this lens down in the description box. Let's get into it. Let's quickly talk about why this focal length is so useful. So first up, this is a 70-200mm full frame equivalent without the size. In photos, it shines for portraits and headshots, delivering excellent compression and smooth bokeh, which in turn flatters the subject's features without distortion. This lens is also a great option for sports and action shooters thanks to its reach and optical image stabilization. The usability translates over to video, being great for sit-down interviews or tight headshots. It can also be used for general wildlife work as well, anytime you really need to punch in. The build quality on the Leica 35-100 f2.8 is great, and it falls right in line with the rest of the higher end Leica lenses for micro four thirds. I love the fact that this lens features internal zooming, which is something you don't see on a lot of zoom lenses. This is not only a huge benefit for weather sealing, but it also is far less likely to have dust issues because there's nothing protruding from the end of the lens here. The zoom ring on this is huge and it's easy to handle thanks to its nice rubberized grip. Now, the focus ring also doesn't have the same sort of issues that the previous generation of lenses had from this lineup, where if you push a little bit too hard, the focus ring sticks. Here, it feels exactly like the 12-35mm Leica. So if you want to shoot with manual focus, it's not an issue. On the left side of the lens over here, we've got a switch which turns on or off the Power OIS, which is Optical Image Stabilization. For best results, just leave this on. You know, the camera body's IBIS system is so good that I'm not exactly sure how much of a difference optical image stabilization makes anymore, but it's still great to see it in this particular lens, because if you're rocking one of the older camera bodies, you'll still get excellent performance out of this. One thing that is missing is that there's no autofocus manual focus switch anywhere, nor is there any sort of aperture ring. So you'll be controlling all of this via the camera body or of course the clutch on the back, which changes your autofocus modes. Handling on both the G9II and GH7 is excellent. Now, the GH7 is slightly heavier, so it does have a slightly more balanced feel, but I love the fact that the lens doesn't extend when you zoom, so everything's nice and compact here. So handling is not a problem on either of these two cameras. Shooting photos with this, I didn't really miss not having an aperture ring, but there's definitely times where if I'm shooting video, I like to just set it and forget it, but that's just me. Either way though, you do get used to it, and if you don't have it, you won't miss it. Another benefit to this Leica lens is it only weighs 360 grams, it's weather resistant and can survive down to -10°C, and I'll put the American temperature on screen. It doesn't get that cold where I live, but if you're shooting in a challenging situation, odds are it should survive no problems at all. Lastly, we get the same 58mm front filter thread that's found on the 12-35. So if you're already rocking the 12-35 with some NDs or polarizers, they'll fit on this also. Unlike some of the kit lenses, this Leica 35-100mm lens features a constant aperture, allowing for f2.8 at any focal length, which means it's not going to get darker the further you zoom in like other lenses. This is without question one of the reasons why this 35-100 f2.8 series of lenses have been so popular in the past. The optical performance of the 35-100 Leica here is awesome. One of the things I noticed immediately was the lack of chromatic aberration, which is the green or purple fringing you'd usually find in some of the out of focus areas in high contrast situations especially. And this was one of the most impressive lenses when it came to the lack of chroma. Here's an example of a visual art piece. And as you can see, even with direct sunlight hitting it, there's no green or purple fringing anywhere in this footage. Whether I was shooting at 35mm all the way in at 100, it looks nice and clean. Sharpness is excellent in real world tests. Now, we do see a tad of vignetting at f2.8, and the corners are a tad soft, but at 3.5, the vignetting is gone, and by f4, the edges of frame are nice and sharp. Here's a comparison between f2.8 and f4. As you can see, both images are nice and detailed, and the colors and contrast pop. This 35-100 is a killer portrait lens thanks to the versatile zoom range. Whether you're shooting at 42.5mm or all the way in at 100mm, the results are excellent. I would definitely recommend this lens for portrait photographers or anyone wanting a premium look for any sort of photography. Now, part of the magic here is when you punch into 100mm. You're getting more background blur than you would, say, at 35mm, but it gives you way more compression. And even though the aperture is the same, it completely changes the rendering of the photos. I dig it. The minimum focusing distance on the Leica 35-100 is 0.85 meters, and I'll put the American inches or feet scale on screen here. And this isn't super close whatsoever. If you want really great up-close photography or video, then the 12-35 is a much better choice. This is unbeatable almost when it comes to the minimum focusing distance for Micro Four Thirds. It's great. But I was still able to get some really nice close-ups with this thanks to its reach. At 100mm, you can kind of get back a bit and take a shot and fill the frame nicely. I was able to fill a frame with a face using this without any issues at all. What you're looking at is a side-by-side comparison between the 12-35mm f2.8 and on this side, the 35-100 at 35mm f2.8. Now the sun's pretty consistent right now, so hopefully nothing else changes, but yeah, I just wanted to do a quick comparison to see how they compare. And in all of my tests, they look very similar. Let's do the all-important video autofocus test for human tracking and subject detection. So I've got the camera set to human detection. I'm using the full area of the sensor. This is the GH7, and we're at 35mm f2.8. So I'll jump out of frame, I'll jump back in, jump out of frame, and jump back in. How's it working? Odds are pretty good. Anyway, let's try it at 100. So we'll punch all the way in. And now we're at 100mm f2.8, which is going to be pushing the autofocus system to the max. Now also check out how much crazy background blur we can get. Even at f2.8 on Micro Four Thirds, it should be giving us plenty. I'm going to jump out of frame, jump back in, jump out of frame, and jump back in. I'll comment on this in just a sec. Looking back at the autofocus test, it's amazing how fast the autofocus is when I walk in from the side of frame. But there is a slight hesitancy as I'm walking towards the camera. You can see in the background blur, there's a few clear examples of where the background blur shifts behind where I am in increments, meaning I'm out of focus slightly just for a split second. And I only noticed this when I was watching it at 50% speed. I shot everything at 50 frames per second just so I could slow things down in post-production and get a good sense of what was going on. Again, it's super fast, and if you're going to be doing a seated talk to camera piece or an interview, it's still going to give you excellent results. Just seems a hair slower than I was expecting. If you plan on using this lens for some sort of unboxing or YouTube channel where you want to do this kind of stuff, it will do a really great job. I tested it out and I had no problems pulling focus from my face to a subject in front of my face and then back to me without going to the background. So it did an awesome job. Another huge bonus for video shooters is that the focus breathing is extremely well controlled at 35mm, which is where the edges of frame appear to zoom in and out when pulling focus from minimum to infinity focus. You will see some more focus breathing at 100mm, but that's pretty normal for a telephoto zoom lens. So to be honest, it's way better than I was expecting. So if you're a video shooter, you won't get any of those distracting focus pulls. If you plan on shooting wildlife or animals, pets or whatever, this lens again does a really great job. My suggestion is for autofocus performance results, you can use the entirety of the sensor if there's just one animal in the frame, and the body tracking or eye tracking for animals works beautifully. A little yellow box comes up, it tracks and does a really awesome job. Now, if there's multiple subjects in the frame, for best results, set a one area mode up wherever you want. You can either tap the screen or use the joystick on the back to move the autofocus point around, and then it will do a great job at tracking that particular subject. Now, it can get a little confused if there's too much going on in the frame or there's too many animals and you don't pick one that you want to track. So yeah, overall though, the autofocus for animals here works beautifully. I'm going to show you a few of my favorite shots that I took with this lens. So the first one is a turtle just chilling out on the rock. It was the first time I've seen a turtle down there and he was kind of grinning at the camera. The second shot is of one of our favorite half-blind Muscovy ducks down at the lake, and he's just a cool dude, man. He's always happy to see us, his tail gets wagging, and you can see just how beautiful this shot looks in terms of its details. While I probably wouldn't recommend this lens for serious wildlife shooters, you probably want something with even more reach. For recreational stuff like this, it's great, and it's a lot of fun to use. Another mode you can use on the G9 Mark II or GH7 is the IS Boost Mode, and this gives you even better stabilization. It does incur a crop, but check this out. It almost just looks like I've got it plonked on a table. So that's 35mm. F2.8 will go all the way into 100. And man, the sides of frame are hardly moving, and I can tell I'm shaking because I've had a couple of monsters today, which, you know, are energy drinks. Let's go back to 35mm. Man, that's crazy, and all the way in at 100. Is the Leica 35-100mm lens parfocal? Well, it actually uses something called varifocal, which kind of gives you the same end result, almost. So say for example, I'm in manual focus, I'm at 100mm, I tap the AF on button and it locks focus. As I go nice and slowly back to 35 and then back into 100, it maintains focus the entire zoom range, which is awesome. So that's what the parfocal thing is. All right, let's wrap this up. I'm gonna give you my final thoughts here on the Panasonic Leica 35-100mm f2.8 Leica. Now, one of the biggest benefits to this lens is, of course, its f2.8 aperture. So if you're in a situation where you want to get a zoom lens that has constant f2.8 light, this is where this really shines. I think the biggest benefit over this, over the 10-25 or the 25-50, is its physical size. This is so much smaller and lighter. It's weather sealed, the focus ring feels great. It's got internal zooming, so nothing's extending, which means the weather sealing on it is going to be great. Optically, I think the quality really speaks for itself. I hope you like the samples in this particular video. But yeah, optically, it's awesome. F2.8 is nice and sharp in the center. If you want it to be sharp across the photo, stop it down to 3.5 or f4, and the end result should speak for itself. In terms of deal breakers for some folks, I think not having an autofocus, manual focus switch might be a deal breaker. And of course, there's no aperture ring control on here as well. So if you're used to using those, you might want to look at something else. But overall, this is a really great performing lens. Would I use this personally? Absolutely. I could see me basically relegating my collection of lenses down to these two at some point in time. If this goes on sale coming up towards the end of the year, I might pull the trigger on it. I'm not too sure yet. Maybe. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Catch you soon. See ya.